Anyway, have a nice day.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this Executive Cabinet meeting of Chorley Council. First item of business is any apologies for absence.
None received, Chair.
Thank you, Nina. Next item is the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of July, which you should have in your agenda packs, pages 3 to 8. Any comments, questions or queries on that? Anybody's got? Okay, I'll propose that they're taken as a true and correct record. Will somebody like to second that, please? Thank you, Councillor France. All those in favour, please show. Excellent. The next item of business is any declarations of interest that anybody's got on the papers tonight? No? Right, thank you. Any public questions received, Nina?
None received, Chair.
Thank you. So we are on to the first item of business proper, which is item 4, which is the Corporate Peer Challenge Action Plan, which is an item from myself. So while I find the report, bear with me, we'll crack on. So everybody's aware, hopefully, that we had a Corporate Peer Challenge earlier this year, and we had an outcomes, and the list of outcomes was circulated at a previous meeting. It was a very successful peer challenge in my view. It raised some challenge to us, as it should do, but it also helped demonstrate how some of the good things that Chorley Council does that I think many of us forget when we're in the thick of it. So having somebody external come in and looking at what you do highlights what you're perhaps not doing as well as you could do, but also highlights those things that, if you like, are quite good. And we took some benefits from that as well, i.e. that we are generally a positive council. As part of that challenge feedback from the LGA grouping that did it, we had to put an action plan in place, which we are delighted to do, and they will revisit Chorley early next year, February 2026, on the 10th of February 2026, to see how we're getting on with implementing that action plan. So, all the action plan is detailed within the table in paragraph 10 through to 11, and therefore the recommendation as detailed in paragraph 2 is to approve the action plan for publication on the council's website. That's all we will do for now, and hopefully then the officers will be away, deliver the action plan, and we will see where we're at in February. Any questions? Blimey. Right. So, I'm proposing it. Anybody like to second that, please? Thank you, Peter. All those in favour, please show. Excellent. Thank you very much. Right, we move on to the next item, which is Councillor Peter Wilson, and that is item 5, and it's the Revenue Budget Monitoring Report. Peter.
So the report outlines the current position at the end of the quarter, which tells us that we have a £67,000 underspend, only a small one, but I suppose it's better being under than over. The breakdown of where that comes from by directorate is then in the following pages from page 19 onwards. I think probably most of the directorates have some increases, expenditure, some decreases, but as I say, the net effect is an overall £67,000 underspend. In terms of the balances and our reserves, we can see there the general balance sits at nearly 4.4 million. We're committed to keeping that as a minimum of 4 million. I think that's probably something we can have a look at. We did say we'd look at in and up to the next budget as to whether that is still appropriate, but that's where we are, so we're well above the target. And then in terms of the general, the earmark reserve, we see that's just sitting at over £8 million, which again has gone up slightly from last time. So in terms of the reserve situation, we see a slight improvement. In terms of the quarterly revenue position, we see a slight improvement. And other than that, Chair, I have nothing to add on that report.
To run very much to budget usually, and it is this year. So the proposals are as recommended in paragraphs 2 and 3, proposed by Councillor Wilson. Somebody happen to second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Howarth. All those in favour, please show. Good, that's passed. Item 6 is a partner to the previous item, and is the capital and balance sheet monitoring report.
Thanks. So the report sets out that again the position at the end of the first quarter. We can see there that the variance compared to the previous report is of £157,000. So that's detailed at the bottom of page 40. You can see there the two issues where we've incurred a slight increase: household food bins and technology one finance system. Overall, there's been a net decrease in the programme as reported to the 24-25 position, and that's mainly things that have shifted or slipped into next year. So again, if you go over the page, we can see there the schemes that have dropped into next year, which are significant investment schemes. So for example, the work on the town centre that were originally budgeted to start this year, but that's now slipped into 26. So also the woodlands, etc. So there's some significant investment items there. Still very much live, still very much programmed, but as I say, we've lost a few months on those, so that's why we've seen the variance of the £37 million. Going down to the position in borrowing, we can see that again there's a slight increase there from the previous year, and the overall net borrowing costs almost identical to where we were, but also equally importantly are our collection rates, both in terms of council tax and business rates, are performing better this year again as compared to this end of the first quarter in 2024. So overall again not much change, but a relatively good position to be in at this period.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Any questions or comments on the detail of that report anybody's got? Right, okay, that's proposed by Peter, seconded by somebody. Bev, thank you, Councillor Murray. All those in favour, please show. That's carried as well. Moving fast tonight. Item 7, Councillor Wilson, is the Chorley Borough Council Property Limited Governance Review.
Yeah, so this review is proposing, as it says in paragraph 2, the dissolution of the Chorley BC Property Limited Company. Just to remind members, when this was set up back in 2019, this was set up specifically for investment items. So in other words, we had a vision, as it were, of acquiring properties or housing and putting it into the property company on the basis that that was an investment item to give a return to the council. Now, since that time, the government, as it says in the report, the government have changed the rules on councils making acquisitions purely for the purpose of yield and purely to have investments in order to bring income into the council. So that combined with the fact that in the end, with the investments we made, which were for other purposes such as Tatton Community Centre and the supported living, and before that Primrose and so on, they stayed within Chorley Council's, on the Chorley Council's books anyway. So a combination of the two really means that the company itself is not required. So obviously we have to make sure that when we make investments, they have purposes beyond yield and beyond just purely investments. And therefore they stay within under the council's control and on our books. Where it left us, as it says in the report, is only Logistics House was in the company. That doesn't cause conflict with the rules around investments, and therefore it's quite easy for that to be just brought back into the council. So with that purpose, given that the company never really sought its original aims, and given that we don't need to have it for the purpose of holding Logistics House, the proposal is to dissolve the company.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no point having it if there's no benefit of having that company, and times have moved on, situations changed. The reasons that we were proposed at the time to benefit from that have changed. So again, I'm happy to support that. And most of the developments, including what's in the company, are now reported via the Development and Assets Working Group, which is a cross-party operation that oversees all our property assets across the borough, and therefore looks at them in a holistic kind of way. So therefore it'd be sensible to have all the holdings in the same place as well. And accountancy-wise, it's easier, he says, looking at our Section 151 officer. So for all those reasons, as Peter has said, the recommendation is that we dissolve that company and put everything back in the council's straightforward accounts. So we're happy to second that proposal. Oh, sorry, any comments or questions first? Sorry. Apart from what I said. No, right. I've got 2 seconders. Councillor Adrian Lowe seconded that. Hand up just first. All those happy to vote in favour, please do. Thank you. Nobody's against. Item 8 is the Chorley Quarter 1 Performance Monitoring Report, pages 55 to 94 of the agenda. Peter again.
Thanks. So as the report highlights, you can see there that we've got 90% of our projects are rated as green or complete. We've got 64% of corporate strategy measures, again, on target, and 83% of the key service measures, again, performing on or above target. So a couple of the headlines from the report: the local plan process has been moving forward at pace, and that's now sitting with the planning inspectorate. So again, that's good progress from Chorley Council's side. Destination management plan has been rolled out, and again, is linking into the work we're doing on the tourism and visitor experience. We've implemented the targeted jobs and skills programme. We've got the cost of living action plan refreshed, and we are working with the voluntary sector to support a number of people in the community and a number of those organisations. So in terms of numbers, we can see 203 businesses engaged with by the council, exceeding the target of 150, 48% in the average improvement in wellbeing score against a target of 70%, so we're exceeding that significantly. Number of percentage of households living in fuel poverty. Again, our performance is looking good. Our overall employment rate is much higher than the North West average, and planning performance remains strong, with 100% of the major and 99% of the minor planning applications being decided on time. So you can see some of the headlines there of where we're performing strongly and doing well. In terms of where we're slightly off track, the two projects, the improving and effectiveness of social housing, that again comes down to the issues with Select Move and the technology that's being used around that. We are still in discussions on that. We are still pressing for that to be improved, obviously, and that work will carry on. The west wing of Astley Hall, again, that's rated as amber due to delays, but now we are in a position where an exec member decision has been approved, so we can get the procurement work underway, and we're hoping to have that all done in April, but all the work done, that is, by April 26. So we should get that done by the end of the year, so back on track. In terms of the indicators that are off track, just three to mention there, Chair. The first is the number of projected jobs created through Chorley Council support and intervention. Again, this is amber. Part of that is the delay in the UK SPF funding coming through and being confirmed that now has done. So again, hopefully we'll see that picking up. NEET, the people not in education, employment or training, again, is off target. We do now have some specific unique Chorley work, as it were, to target that and hopefully turn that around. It is very complicated, as we've discussed in the past, and it involves other partners, so it's not something we can deliver alone, but it's something where we've got to pull in a lot of other people. And then finally, the number of customers satisfied with the service they receive from the council. That is slightly below target, but as members will recall, we increased that target. So originally we had 70% target for satisfaction. We upped it to 80 because members wanted to see us stretch a bit more and do even better. It is at 75, so the direction of travel is going in the right way. It's gone from 70 to 75, but it's still just below our target. But again, I'm confident that we'll get there. So they're the three areas I just wanted to cover in terms of the off targets.
Thank you. And just on the NEAT one, which I know we have discussed many times, for those members in my team who might be here tonight, we had a long discussion about that again the other night as part of our portfolio briefing, and there are multiple projects underway from multiple different sources, whether that's county council, whether that's Department of Work and Pensions, whether that's whatever, from the health providers as well. There is a lot of concerted work, and a lot of that's being funded through the Chorley and South Ribble Partnership, and that's intended that it doesn't just benefit Chorley residents, it benefits South Ribble as well, and that way that's part of our travel to work area. So there's lots of stuff going on there. And I think we need to give it time to show some results because, as we discussed at that meeting, some of the causes of the NEET situation that Councillor France constantly bangs on about is embedded very, very young ages in people, and therefore there needs to be a whole programme of work to be done with these people to get them engaged again after many years of disengagement, and COVID didn't help with that. So lots of evidence, lots of input, and hopefully lots of outputs to come in due course. Let's just hope we get there with it. Are there any other comments or questions about any of those corporate priorities in that performance monitoring report? Councillor France, the aforementioned.
Yeah, you've taken the wind out of my sails really, but I just wanted to say that 0 to 5 age group, I think the whole issue around school readiness is crucial to this NEET at a later date, and I'd really like to see some investment in our very young children with a view to helping them achieve their potential, and maybe there are 1 or 2 projects that might just feed into that through the partnership, the Chorley South Ribble Partnership. Thanks.
Agreed. Any other questions or comments anybody's got? No, in that case, we are asked to review the report and provide feedback where required. I think we've done that. Do we need to vote on that? No, that's just for noting. Okay. I sound like the mayor then, don't I? Do we need to vote on that? Item 9 is still Councillor Wilson. Oh, he goes on a bit, doesn't he? Strategic Risk Register Review.
I've done those last 4 reports quicker than you did your introduction. Anyway, going to the next one. The Strategic Risk Register is something that as Cabinet we have to cover every 6 months, and this is actually the register. The purpose of the register is to identify and address any potential risks to the organisation. So it's not about individual priorities projects that we just discussed under the corporate strategy. So as you can see in the report, it outlines where the risks and the scores that are associated with them. There is no major changes to the risk register this time. However, there are, like everything, it is constantly reviewed. So you'll see that some of the risks have gone up. For example, the failure of ICT security and data protection. That's gone up just given the rise that we've seen in cyber threats and recent high-profile incidents where public organisations have been targeted. So again, that has gone up. In other areas, it's gone down. For example, failure to realise the benefit of major investments, as we just saw in the capital strategy. We can see those major investment projects all coming forward so early next year. So again, the likelihood of those failing, as it were, are less likely given that they're being brought forward in the programme. We do have a new risk, which is local government reorganisation. Given that everything could potentially change completely, obviously that is something that now has to be considered as an issue facing the organisation moving forward. Other than that, Chair, I don't think there's anything particularly revolutionary in the report, but we just do need to be aware of those, as I say, where those risks have gone up.
Thank you for that. And at Lancashire Leaders last week, we discussed risk optimisation, risk and bias optimisation, didn't we? Around LGR.
From Burnley.
Mainly from Burnley, yeah. So it is something on people's radars on the moment on that is about how you demonstrate risk and benefit of a local government reorganisation. To be honest, it was very interesting discussion, but didn't really go anywhere. On the back of that comment, is there any other comments around the Strategic Risk Register review anybody would like to make or raise? No, in that case, again, we're asked to note the strategic risk, control measures and planned actions as set out in the report, and I will take it that it's been noted. Everybody all right with that? Good. We now come to the next item, which is item 10, which is Councillor Margaret France, which is the Executive Cabinet response to the Overview and Scrutiny Task Group on Suicide, Bereavement and Prevention, pages 117 to 124 of your agendas.
Thank you very much, Chair. It gives me great pleasure to present this report compiled by Liz Jones and her team, who've worked long and hard on these recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Task Group. So we're requesting tonight that you note and agree the recommendation, the implementation of these recommendations listed on paragraph 10, and there are 12 of them. So there's an extensive list of actions and comments. And I think it's all about team working, really, about working alongside LCC and identifying hotspots, and about offering suicide first aid training to businesses in the area, barbers and licensed premises and taxi drivers. So it's really about targeting. We know for a fact that people most at risk of suicide are often living in deprived areas. They're males between the age of 45 and 49. They're in financial problems, some of them in debt, often to do with gambling, and men who are leaving the armed forces for the first 2 years. So there's an awareness of where the problems lie, and there's a really good number of recommendations here about what we might do to move this forward. And I think the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, and it's whether Lancashire County Council come back to us in a year or 2 years' time and those figures have reduced, because at the moment we are an outlier. We have 14 per 100,000 suicides in Chorley compared to the England average of 11. So this isn't an isolated case this year, it's been the same for 3 or 4 years. So I think this is a really good piece of work. And as I say, what will be interesting to see is how effective this is when LCC come back to us with their figures in another 12 months or even 2 years. Thank you.
Any comments or questions on that report anybody would like to make? No. And therefore the recommendation in paragraph 2 is that the Suicide Bereavement and Prevention Recommendation Implementation Plan is noted and agreed as proposed by Councillor Wilson. Somebody happy to second that? Thank you, Councillor Hilton. All those
Councillor France
proposed it. Sorry, Councillor France proposed it. Councillor Hilton seconded it. And all those in favour, please show. Thank you for saving me from myself, Peter. On that basis, then, that concludes the items on the agenda. I'm not aware of any